All right, so today we're going to do section 11-3. If you could just flip your foldable over to the back, you should already have it divided into 4 sections. Okay, so in those 4 sections, we're going to fill in the following information. In the first box, we're going to show how to calculate the arc length of a circle. This should be super familiar to you. Why? Because we just did it in chapter 9. Okay, so if you have a circle and your circle has an angle drawn into it, that angle, bless you, is either going to have a measurement here or it's going to be here. Those 2 measurements are the same. Okay? The other piece of information you're going to have is that it's going to have a radius. So one of those radius will have a measurement on it, or that's what you're solving for. Okay? Then we have a name for this arc length. So the arc length is the distance from A to B right here. And the arc length formula is going to be the circumference of the whole circle. What is the circumference formula for a circle? 2 pi r. You're going to take that 2 pi r and you're simply going to multiply it by the measure of that angle. So m degrees over the total degrees in a circle, which is 360. Okay. So in the box right next to it, we're going to put example number 1. We're going to draw a circle. We're going to carve out an angle in it that is 134 degrees. And we're going to give it a radius of 8 centimeters. The angle can either be here or it can be out here. They're the same. That central angle is going to have the same arc angle. Okay, so we're going to start by writing down the formula for arc length, which is 2 pi r times the measure of the angle over 360. And then we're going to plug in the 2 values. We're going to plug in the 8 for the radius. We're going to plug in the 134 for the measure of the angle. And then we're going to get 2 answers. So we're going to have 2 pi times 8. And then the angle is 134. So that out of 360. Then we're going to take our calculator and we're going to multiply everything except for the pi button. And that's going to be our exact answer, what we call in terms of pi. So we're going to say 2 times 8 times 134. And then we're going to divide that by 360. And we get roughly 6.0 pi. And because it's arc length, it's just here. It's not the whole filled in. That's the area. We're going to say this is just in centimeters. And then for our decimal answer, we're just going to leave that in the calculator and then hit times the pi button. And we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. So I've got 18.7. There's a 0 next to it, so it stays. So it's just 18.7 centimeters. Any questions on example number 1 there? This is like deja vu, right? Because you've already learned this. Okay? So in the box below it, we're going to talk about the area of the sector. And that is of a circle. So sometimes you'll just see area of a sector, sometimes you'll see area of a sector of a circle. It just depends on how they want to word it. Okay? So we're going to start by drawing another circle. We're going to take a section of it, a sector of it. And this time it's area, so it's this part filled in here. Versus the arc length was just that arc piece on the outside. Okay? So the angle measure, sometimes you'll see it here. That's an M, measure of that angle, or here, and a radius. Okay, so for area of a sector, I just use AS, area of a sector. And we start with the area of a circle formula. What's the area formula for a circle? Pi r squared. And then we multiply it times the measure of the angle out of the total degrees in a circle, which is 360. And then we're just going to do an example in the box right next to it. Draw a circle, section off a sector, give it an angle measure of 131 degrees. We're getting this whole area in here. And it's going to have a radius of 12 meters. Okay? So area of a sector formula is pi r squared. We're going to multiply that by the measure of the angle times 360. And then we, just like example number 1, we're plugging in our two values, the radius and the angle measure. So we're going to have pi 12 squared times 131 over 360. And for the first answer, plug in everything but the pi button. So if you can do 12 squared in your head, do it in your head. If not, you can use the squaring button. So I'm going to do 12 squared. And then I'm going to multiply it by 131. And then I'm going to divide it by 360. Hit the equals. I've got 52.4 pi. Oops, and I cleared it. Sorry. Let's not clear it. Don't clear it like I did. Leave it in there. And this one is in meters, and because it's area, you want to say meters squared. And then you're just, for the final answer, multiply it by the pi button. And then round it to the nearest tenth. So I've got 164.6. There's a 1 next to it, so it stays. So 164.6.